Mike, Doug Collins, new head coach of the 76ers. Like it or dislike it, first of all? Quick response on that one.
I like it a little.
What's your gut say?
I'm not crazy about it. I like it a little. It's funny. I was looking at. Well, you know what, Starkey? Before I say what I think, I'd like to know what you think because you are such a firebrand on the subject of this basketball.
I'm very
team.
passionate about the 76ers. My first take on it was this is a typical Ed Stefanski move. It was the first guy he interviewed. He did all these other interviews afterwards. It just seemed like it was all act and stage and just procedure. But he had his guy. Even during the other interviews, he's text messaging and calling Doug Collins to tell him updates on interviews. If I'm going into a job interview, I really don't want the guy telling him, hey, well, he was okay, but you're still our front runner.
Also, they went to Scottsdale, Arizona,
to
where
his house.
Collins lived. They went to his house, so I mean, clearly he was their number one choice.
Yeah, just sort of odd. Gene Shue was one of the people in the evaluation, and Gene Shue was his first coach in the NBA. All that being said, he's not Eddie Jordan, and anybody's better than Eddie Jordan out there. I like Doug Collins. I think if you saw the press conference, he won me over a little bit yesterday. I still think Tom Thibodeau, Boston Celtics assistant, look what the Celtics are doing. They're about to go to the NBA Finals. They're playing great defense to do so. He is their guy. He is the front runner for the New Orleans job, and I'll just be saying a couple years from now, gee, he could have been the Sixers coach.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, Doug Collins is clearly a sharp guy, a smart guy. And in reading about this a little bit this morning, I found some things that there were a couple of writers who said, and I kind of agree with this, when you look back at the numbers from his coaching career, it makes him look like a better coach than I sort of remember him being.
Yeah, I agree.
A couple of things here. When he took over the Bulls, they went from 23rd in defensive rating to 11th in his first year and 2nd in his second year. Then he went to Detroit. They were 27th in defense, and they went to 7th, and an 18-win turnaround in his first year at Detroit. Now, a couple of things about that. The third year has been a problem. We're talking about the first and second year.
Yep.
In both those cases, the third year was a problem, and that leads to kind of the theory with Collins that he wears players out.
Yes,
he's very critical and very So I think we can expect the Sixers, who have a lot of athleticism and a lot of physical ability to be pretty good defensively, I think we can expect to see them improve on that end of the floor next year. Beyond that, I'm not sure. And I'm of the general opinion, to be brutally honest with you, I'm of the general opinion that there are very, 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 very few NBA coaches that make a big difference. And I'm not convinced that Doug Collins is one of those very few. I think he's a good name, smart guy. I think they could have done a lot worse. But I'm not sure he's one of those guys that's really going to impact it.
Of the candidates that Ed Stefanski paraded out there, he was the best one. But I do agree with you. It's funny, during the press conference, Collins talked about his first 2 years of each of these programs and used those stats. He didn't talk about the third year. He's very passionate, very emotional. I think he wears himself out also. 3 jobs he's had, Chicago, Detroit, and also Washington. He's not lasted more than 3 years, only 2 in Washington. That was a weird...
Washington was a bad situation.
Right.
And I think we should also say he's 58 years old now, and it's very, very possible that he will have mellowed and he will be able to approach it in a little bit more mannered way. And so I mean, I'm not sure I totally want to go nuts with that third year problem, but I think one thing we can say is expect the Sixers to be better defensively next year.
And he's the 8th coach in 9 years. They need to get some stability in there for these players if these players have a chance. And I think he's going to help them. One of the strengths of this group is they are young, athletic, can play defense, and they like to run. I love the fact that he wants to adapt his system around these players as opposed to bringing a system and making the players adapt. I think that's a positive.